It's Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, and we've got breaking news. The Africa birds have landed. Get very ready. Let's go. Well. Our day has finally come, and it's everything we hoped it would be. The Africa special isn't until Thursday, but all the news dropped today 2 days early. So this story popped up in the New York Times at 11:13 a.m. Eastern Time. Charles went live with an AMA in the last hour. I'm wearing my battle shirt. What I mean by that, when you're a little kid and you watch too many action movies, you think to yourself, if I were having the climactic final fight in an action movie, what t-shirt would I wear? I've always had some t-shirt, and I was like, that's my main t-shirt. That's the t-shirt. That's the battle t-shirt. On the really important days when I can wear a normal, very, very comfortable t-shirt, this is the shirt I want to be wearing. If I'm doing the most important stuff or observing very important events, I'm going to wear this t-shirt. I'm wearing that t-shirt today. I hope you've all got on your battle shirts as well, whether it be dress shirts, sweaters, tank tops, whatever they are. Put on your battle shirts. Today is our day. So this article ostensibly is about Tesla. You're like, why are we, the army of spies, looking at an article about Tesla? It's ostensibly about Tesla, but the article is really about blockchain stuff. And there's a section of the article called Blockchain for the Long Term, and it's all about this Africa deal. We thought Forbes was going to be the big mainstream publication Charles was talking about that was going to drop the Africa news eventually, but it's actually New York Times picking this up as part of their deal book thing. I think they own DealBook now, or I don't know exactly how it works, but they're dropping this news. So the New York Times says IOHK has a deal with Ethiopia's Ministry of Education, and that this deal will give 5 million students tools, identifications, and access to a unified record system that will allow rural and indigent young people to have the same system as others. There we go, guys. When John O'Connor accidentally leaked the information a couple months ago that it would involve 5 million students, we could only speculate, or 5 million people in Ethiopia, we could only speculate as to what that meant. People thought it was going to be some kind of a municipal government deal in Addis Ababa, probably having to do with utilities. There was a lot of talk about telecom stuff, and maybe some of that stuff is coming too. But this is better. This is like a nationwide deal with the Ethiopian Ministry of Education, not just an Addis Ababa municipal deal. This is a deal with the national government of a large African country. And it not only does it create identity for these students, but it also gives them, it looks like it gives them access to a unified record system to put maybe, students from rural villages on the same footing as students in the capital city. I think a lot of people on this call are probably familiar with the developing world or the semi-developed world. And you've probably been to places outside of the developed world. And if you travel through municipal urban areas and also rural areas, it's very, very apparent that people born in these two areas, Charles always describes this as the genetic lottery, right? People born into, the 1% group who live in the fabulous capital city urban areas, it's undeniable in a lot of these places that somebody born in that environment has exponential more opportunity than someone born into a rural village. And it sounds like this project is going to try to even the playing field in some way to some extent, right? I mean, can you ever totally level that playing field? Probably not. But at least if you give people in these rural villages, these students, at least if you give them identification and an ability to show their educational attainment in a unified record system, then at least they can prove their level of educational attainment, right? This is just step one. But this article also mentions tools. So we don't know what that means. I mean, in his AMA, Charles talked about a lot of things that would seem to go far beyond just an educational identification and attainment record system, right? He talked about a lot of things. Let's go over there and talk about Charles' video right now. So in this AMA, you can see this just barely streamed, but in this AMA, we saw alternately sort of the happiest possible version of Charles. You can see how much he's smiling. Look at this smile. Look at this beardy, bespectacled smile right here. This is a very happy Charles, and also a very sober one. I mean, he, I think, was relieved and happy to finally be revealing, the mystery of the birds, exactly what's going on. But at the same time, it was kind of especially towards the end of the AMA, it was kind of sobering because he was talking about how for him this really is about doing something good in the developing world, and especially in Africa. He was talking about how he hopes this project allows the next generation of young Africans to become entrepreneurs and build things on top of Cardano. He hopes this next class of Haskell and Plutus developers in Ghana are able to be the core coders on a Bitcoin full node client. And he also talked a lot about the community. He was talking about us, and Charles is an interesting character because he gets a lot of static for perceived egotistical nature. But when he's talking to us, the Cardano community, he says things like in this AMA, he says things like, you guys are going to build things on Cardano that I could never build. And that's what's really interesting to me. He could have, as much as the Cardano brand is identified with Charles, as much as he is very much the face of Cardano, he could have turned this into much more a cult of personality. How do I know that? Because we don't really know that much about, we know about his professional history. We know he grew up in Hawaii and then moved to Colorado. We know a few things about him, but he doesn't talk about his dating life or, whether he's married, single. He doesn't talk about any of that stuff, right? If this was a cult of personality, he would be talking about a lot more personal stuff, right? And he's got a lot of airtime. He puts up a lot of airtime. So he does talk about, his farm and, the one project giving him a Lamborghini, a few things like that, because I think they come up and they're kind of relevant. But he's not trying to make this about him. To a certain extent, to promote Cardano, it's had to be him, but he is not aiming at turning this into a cult of personality where he's going to control all the projects that are built on Cardano. He very much wants this to be a decentralized thing where the Cardano community will build all the great things on Cardano over the next decade. What's great with the onboarding these 5 million students in Ethiopia, and they have not just 5 million students this year, but maybe 100 million people over the next 10 years, we'll have a cadre of people trying to progress the Cardano system in both the developed world and the developing world. And with that many people, just the power of numbers, it's going to mean that great projects get built. I mean, let's face it, no matter what pool of people you pick, if you pick, 40,000 people, a pool of 40,000 people, or a pool of 100 million people, which pool of people is going to produce the best material? Even though it's counterintuitive for some, it's always going to be the group of 100 million people. And that's what Charles and IOHK and Emergo and the Cardano Foundation have been trying to build with Cardano. They've been playing the long game. They could have gone after a core group of developers like Ethereum did. Core is the wrong word here because it means something different in blockchain, but they could have had this small group of 40,000 Solidity developers. No, Charles is trying to build a group of 100 million people who are invested in the Cardano system. And by that, invested, I think that I don't mean financially. I mean in their real life, right? Like, I'm highly invested in automobile technology, right? Like, I'm real happy we have like automobiles and motorcycles because I'm using them on the daily. I'm emotionally, intellectually, and in every way invested in that, right? I'm real invested in the internet. I'm real glad we have Wi-Fi and TCP IP. Like, I'm real invested in that. And Cardano's long game is to get 100 million people in Africa real invested in Cardano. This is a very different game than any other crypto projects playing. You guys already know this. I mean, isn't this why we're all here? Today is the reason we were all here. Maybe you got in just because you saw Cardano on CoinMarketCap and you were like, oh, wow, an Ethereum Slayer. What's this all about? Oh, they're real academic. They got this crazy billionaire mathematician running shit. This looks good. I'll invest in this. Maybe that's why you got in. But the reason you stayed was because you saw they were playing a different kind of game. It wasn't a couple founders trying to make $100 million. It was a whole organization of people, mainly coders, mainly Haskell coders, a whole organization of people, mainly hardcore tech people, trying to change the world. That's why we all stuck around. That's why this Cardano community is known as one of the greatest communities in all of cryptocurrency. It's also probably why we're so hated. This is why they hate us, because they knew we weren't playing the same game as everybody else. We were playing this long game, and we weren't going to look good in the short term. The Cardano community was not going to look good in the short term. Or Cardano was a whole project. We weren't going to look good. But everybody knew that if we succeeded over the long term, like I think we have today, if we succeeded over the long term, that it was going to disrupt everything. We were the disruptive project that was going to disrupt all the disruptive projects. I think that's happened today. I've got on my battle shirt today. You tell me, are you wearing a special shirt today or a regular shirt? It's okay. If you got this news while you were already at work and you couldn't put on your battle shirt, that's okay. But if you're at home, put on your fancy shirt. Today's the day we begin our victory march. I hope you're having a great day. And we never do these middle of the day publications of videos. So this is going to be kind of a special thing. But we'll be back tomorrow, and I'll also see you on Thursday.